In German, we say Ich liebe Indien. I love India would be Ich liebe Indien. And in Indonesian, it would be Saya suka India. And then in Korean, it would be Indo Joayo. And then in Japanese, it would be Indo Skides. And then in Chinese, it would be Wo Ai Indu.
Hello and welcome. What if I told you that one man from Chennai can read 400 languages? In today's interview, we have with us Mahmood Akram, a legendary polyglot whose life's work challenges everything we think we know about language, memory, and the human mind. From ancient tongues to the modern dialects spoken across continents, Mahmood Akram has dedicated his life to mastering languages, not just as tools of communication, but also as living carriers of culture, history, and identity. Welcome, Mahmood. Thank you so much for joining
Yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah.
So, I would like to dive in with the question that what was the first language that sparked your fascination with the linguistics?
Okay. So since my native language is Tamil, I started with Tamil language. And then once I learned Tamil language, I started with English, obviously, since it's our one of the official language. And then I slowly started to learn other Indian languages like Malayalam, Telugu, Hindi, Gujarati, Bengali. But I started all these scripts to learn how to read and write when I was at the age of 4. So at that
Right.
time, I couldn't speak any languages. So I just tried to learn how to read and write just the alphabets of many Indian languages. Then I move on to the other languages, other foreign languages. So your to your question, the first language was Tamil, my native one.
All right. So, how many native languages that you speak, read, write, and how many foreign languages?
So I'm capable of typing, reading, and writing in 400 languages, 400 different languages, including Indian and foreign one. And when it
Right.
comes in terms of speaking, I could only speak 46, and in
Only.
various levels. Yeah, only. I mean, compared to 446, much lesser, right? So I could
Right.
speak 46 languages, and that too
Yeah.
not 100% fluency. I would be
Hmm.
in various different levels. We might have heard in English, right, like beginner, intermediate, advanced. The same way,
Right.
I will be in intermediate level in some languages. In some languages, it would be advanced level, while in many languages, I will be beginner level. Because in order to speak a language, we need to have much time to learn, and it's
Right.
just 5 years since I started to speak the language.
Speaking of time to learn languages, what is your daily practice? Can you walk us through it?
Okay, so my advice would be for a beginner who is just starting a language.
Yeah.
If it's a language with a different script, let's say Hindi, for example, if somebody wants to learn Hindi, we have a separate new alphabets and we have to learn. Whereas if you learn Spanish or French, you already might have known English. So we are just
Right.
going to use the same alphabet. But
Hmm.
that's not the case for Hindi. So that person needs to learn the alphabet first. And if their goal is just to speak the language, then I would suggest that alphabet is not needed. So they can
Right.
just romanize it. For example, if we say kya
Oh.
means just write KYA instead of. So so that
Oh.
we can make the learning process more rapidly.
Yeah, it becomes easier to read, grasp.
Exactly.
Yeah. All
Exactly.
right. So,
So first we
so
have to focus on the pronunciation,
yeah.
because if pronunciation is really bad, sometimes the word might be mistranslated to the natives.
Hmm.
So we have to
Hmm.
focus on the pronunciation first. If your goal is not to read and write, then focus on pronunciation. But if your goal is to read and write, then first we have to write it fluently, then read, then we have to focus on the pronunciation. Next only the speaking ability and the listening ability will be more important.
All right. That's interesting. And that's fascinating more than that. Are there any languages that you found particularly challenging? Like there are some languages that are extremely
Mm.
challenging. I would say Sanskrit was one of them because I don't
Okay.
know as many languages though. But you're
Mhm.
a Tamilian, so Sanskrit must be much
Yeah.
easier for you. But which is that one challenging language that you found out of these
Um,
46?
Actually, I tried to learn Sanskrit before, but I never learned it fully, not even 20 percentage, because I find it too old. You see, like I'm
Oh,
not a nerd. I would say I'm not a nerd, so I wouldn't like to learn any old languages. So
oh,
I just dropped Sanskrit. So for
hmm,
me, the hardest language would be Vietnamese, then Pashto, and then when it comes to European language, I would say Finnish, Norwegian.
right.
These languages were difficult, not just because of pronunciation and all, but for me personally, it's about resources. You see, for example,
Oh,
many people might have think that Chinese, this guy was going to be answering Chinese, but that's not the
hmm,
answer because for Chinese is so popular, so we can get a lot of
right.
materials to learn it. So that's
So,
why that's why
so
no, I chose Vietnamese, Norwegian to be hardest
right.
because I don't have the proper materials to learn, and there is
Hmm.
no easy way. Just an old textbook, and we have to learn from that. So that is the thing I find challenging. Plus,
Right. Speaking of, yeah, please go ahead.
I do believe that these languages are harder, but not much as Chinese or Japanese, but they're still harder. But I need to place them because I couldn't find much better resources when I was learning it.
So, I think Chinese itself is not a language though, but it has two
Hmm.
parts of it. One is Mandarin, the other is Cantonese. So, do you know
Yeah,
either?
I just learned Mandarin.
Mandarin. That's
I
the
mean,
modern Chinese language, right?
it's like there is a politic of that because
Right.
Chinese has so many Chinese. It's not just two. Just like in
Yeah.
India, for
Okay.
example, in India there are 22 official languages, right? So we
Right.
have a language specific for each state. So Tamil Nadu means
Correct.
Tamil, Kerala means Malayalam.
Hmm.
The same way
Right.
in China also
Hmm.
those kind of system existed. So if you go to
All right.
Beijing, the official
Hmm.
one is Mandarin. And then if you
Okay.
go into Shanghai, they will speak another language which is called Shanghainese. And then if you go to
Shanghaians.
Taiwan, it's Shanghainese. And if it's
Okay.
Taiwan, it's Taiwanese. And then if you go to Tibet, they speak Tibetan. So each province has a different language. But due to
Right.
political reasons, Chinese government haven't made any languages as official one. So they didn't
All
give
right.
the power to call it a language. So
Hmm.
they just added it as a dialect of a language. Let's say
All right.
if I were to make it clear, uh,
Hmm.
Hindi is India's official language, just only one. Just imagine Hindi is the only one official language, and
Okay.
our government made Tamil, Malayalam, Telugu not as a separate language but as a dialect of Hindi.
Dialects. Right.
So that's how Chinese government is making the country run.
Okay. Okay, that's understandable. So it must be very convenient. I wouldn't say easier, but very convenient for you to travel and get to know the culture of different
Mm,
countries, their languages, because language is one way that you can easily
yeah,
communicate in. Right.
exactly,
So,
exactly.
in your, how did learning so many languages change your worldview during understanding of the humanity? I would say.
Okay, so when I communicate with different languages to different peoples, um,
Yeah.
the first thing will come to my mind is that they are not understanding my speech in their brain,
Hmm.
but in their heart. That's what I believe. So let's say, um, let's say you don't know Tamil and you're speaking in English to me, to
Yeah.
a person, or for example, you're speaking English to a Tamil person. That means
Hmm.
they know English, they know fluently, but still
Right.
you're speaking with their brain, not through their heart. So, but if you speak
Right.
at least one Tamil word or two Tamil words, that means you will open their heart. Let's say, for
Oh,
example, you're doing a business with China. Maybe you're doing an
yeah.
import-export business,
Right.
and you don't know, since you don't know Chinese, you're communicating with English with your business partner, and
Hmm.
at some point you don't have financially. stable at that month. Okay, so
Right.
you need to convince that business partner. Okay,
Hmm.
so can you just make it clear that I will make the payment in the next month or in few days? But
Right.
that person will never accept it. They will refuse it just because you're speaking in English.
Right.
That's because they're thinking in their brain, not in their heart. If
Yeah.
they are thinking it with their heart, that means they will
Hmm.
accept you. So
Okay.
if you say the same thing in Chinese, they will accept it immediately.
Oh, right.
So you can make the payment even if it's delayed. Since you are not financially stable right now, you can make the payment later. Just because you spoke Chinese, they can accept it.
Right.
So that's why
I
I
like.
believe. So if we speak with their heart, not with their
Yeah.
brain, then we
Hmm.
can gain a lot of friendship or more, mutual understanding.
All right. No, that's
If the brain is
understandable.
thinking, yeah, if the brain is thinking means
Yeah.
they will always be very cautious. They will be
Yeah.
like in the middle instead of enemy or instead of friend. They will be in the middle. So we need to make friends a lot of time. That's what I do.
Yeah, I think that's one of the basics of human nature. If somebody speaks to me
Mm.
in Hindi or Bhojpuri, I would be more attracted to them, or maybe I
Okay.
would try to befriend them, or maybe get to know them more.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's a basic
Mm.
nature of a human. But so,
Yeah.
what
Exactly.
in your perspective? I
Mm.
mean, I want to know your perspective on how important is it to preserve endangered or indigenous languages? What happens
Mm.
when a language disappears? So it is a two-part question.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so the if you take anything in the world, there will be an advantage and it is a disadvantage both. So
Absolutely.
that disadvantage would be if a language is going to be endangered,
Hmm.
the culture uh, resembles that language will be
Hmm.
endangered too. Let's say
Right.
your native language is Bhojpuri.
Well, it's Hindi, Awadhi,
Okay,
but yeah.
all
So it's
right,
more of a dialect, not a language. Hindi.
I see.
Hindi is the language. Yeah.
Yeah, they made it. Okay, so anyway, so if a language is going to be endangered, the culture,
Yeah.
yeah, in India we have so many cultures, so that language is going to be disappear means the culture within that will also be disappeared, and
Hmm.
many other things. Maybe they might have old books, literature, everything will be in the endangered. Just because
Hmm.
the language is going to be endangered, the whole thing behind that culture, people, everything will be lacking. So
Right.
that's the disadvantage,
Hmm.
and there is an advantage too. So the advantage is since there might be less languages, people don't have to spend time in learning multiple languages just because they are visiting their community or other communities or other countries. So they can spend
Right.
less time, maybe just
Hmm.
learn English or any other language. So if there are less languages, we don't have to suffer a lot.
Right.
So there is an advantage and disadvantage.
Hmm.
So in order to save the language from being
Hmm.
endangered,
Hmm.
I would advise the parents, the current generation needs to teach
Yeah.
their mother tongue to the next
Hmm.
generation. That's the only
Yeah.
possible. But
Yeah.
right now, we can all see that many people are moving to cities, urban cities, instead of their
Right.
hometown. And
Hmm.
for example, let's say you move to Delhi from your native place, means you
Right.
cannot speak your native language in Delhi. So it might be
Right.
a multi-language city. So we need to
Yeah.
use English or either
Hmm.
Hindi. So we don't
Hmm.
have any opportunity to speak our native language.
Hmm.
So if your children are being born in this city, that means
Yeah.
there is no way they will learn your native language because they
Yeah.
have to survive in school, they have to
Hmm.
go to college and in the workplace. So everybody needs to speak a language which everybody can understand. So therefore,
Right.
the native language usage will be much lesser.
Yeah, I think most of the parents try to speak their own native languages at home, but
Mm.
the actual exposure that the children get, the younger ones, the school children, I would say, get mostly in school, and the primary language that they speak in school or the instructions that they get in school is majorly English or Hindi. I'm talking
Yeah,
about Delhi, North
exactly.
Indian states.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Whereas when they communicate to each other, it is so. a place like Delhi is a multicultural place. There are so many people from different
Exactly.
ethnicities that have come to Delhi to earn or maybe to study or etc. So the basic bottom language is mostly Hindi for us.
Exactly.
So that gives a lot of that creates a gap between the culture that you come from and
Hmm.
the future that you want to pass on. Don't you think?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think
So
so.
speak, yeah. So speaking of cultures, I want to know where did you? I mean, where were you brought up, and what was your journey like till date?
Mostly, I spent my life in Chennai during my childhood. But when
Right,
I was 3 years old, I spent 1 year in Oman, and that's where I
right.
picked up Arabic.
Okay,
So, so I wasn't fluent. I didn't know how to speak Arabic, but I just learned
right,
the exposure to the culture. So I just spent one
right.
year in Oman, and then up to 10 years, I
Hmm.
lived in Chennai only. So
Right,
I did, so up to 10 years old, I didn't know anything about other cultures, everything. And then
right.
at 11 years, I studied in Israel. I spent 2 years in an Israeli
Hmm.
school, but
Hmm.
that time also the war was going on.
Right.
So therefore international students weren't accepted. So
Hmm.
I stayed in Chennai, but I studied in an Israeli school through online.
All right.
This was happened on 2015.
Oh, very recently.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was, I mean, way before lockdown. So I
Yeah.
studied from. So it was an online education. So for 2 years, I
All
spent
right.
time in Israeli
Hmm.
institute. That's where I learned about Israeli culture, then other Arabian culture. Then
Right.
they also taught me the cultures of European language like Spanish, French,
Right.
German. Then
Hmm.
at 14 years old, I got an opportunity to study in Austria.
Oh, what a
Near,
beautiful place, Austria.
yeah. So um, at that time, just in my classroom alone, there were like 39 nationalities. Since it was an
Okay.
international school, there were 39 nationalities. So
Okay.
a classmate is from England, a classmate is from Russia, Ukraine. So a
Right.
lot of backgrounds the students were from.
Hmm.
So I could learn a lot about languages, plus their cultures, plus their ideology, everything. So I spent 4 years there,
Okay.
and that's the time I truly learned how to speak a language. So I started when I was 14 years old.
Oh, that's wonderful. At a very young age, though.
Yeah, exactly.
14 is barely any age to start with a language.
Yes. I'm not old enough now. I'm still 19
Hmm.
now. It's been
So
5 years.
that's great. You're achieving great heights at a teenage phase of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wonderful. So, in today's age of translation apps and AI, why do you believe learning a language still matters?
Um, so the AI is actually has developed more compared to the previous years, like 2015 or 16. The AI
Hmm.
is okay. It's doing okayish, but still it's not
Hmm.
100% accuracy, and
Yeah.
it doesn't speak with um, the slang words or the Gen Z slang. So it
Yeah.
doesn't know those things. So
Yeah.
I think even if you try to understand the other person, still it's going to the brain. Even if you use, for example, let's say since you don't know Tamil and you want to communicate me in Tamil and you're using a
Yeah.
translation app, still
Right.
those sentences will stick in my brain only, not in my heart. So that's what I believe. But if you spoke at least one or two sentences from your mouth, from you
Yeah.
from a human, that means it's much better and we can connect. I mean, if your goal is um, just to make a living in that place
Hmm.
where your native language or the language you don't know is being spoken means, just to make your
Right.
life going on means the transition is okay. But to make connection with the people, even though
Hmm.
the translation is okay,
Hmm.
even though both people can understand, since
Hmm.
it's a machine, the mutual understanding won't happen. That's what I believe.
Right. Right.
So,
So the human
it's
connection still lags.
yes, exactly. So if you're
So I
going with
remember.
human
Hmm.
connections, you have to
Hmm.
learn a language. But
Hmm.
if you're just making a living, that means it's not illegal.
Hmm.
You don't have to force yourself to learn a new language. You can just communicate with
Yeah.
translation apps. But
Yeah.
on other hand, learning languages also helps you. For example, let's say you want to relocate to Germany or
Hmm.
France, maybe for employment purpose. Then,
Right.
let's say you work for 5 years, then you can get PR,
Hmm.
permanent
Hmm.
residency.
Right.
But to
Hmm.
get that, you need to know their language.
Right.
So in order
Okay.
to get the
So
PR, you
that's
need
one
to
of the conditions.
know German. Yes. So
Okay.
that is an
Okay.
advantage of learning languages. Because
Yeah.
if you don't know the
Absolutely.
language, you won't get the PR or the work visa or even the citizenship of that country.
Why do I get the hint that you want the PR of Germany soon?
I mean, I'm not directing to you. Just I'm saying an example. Saying an
I
example of
get that. I was
advantage
just
of
joking.
learning. Okay.
So tell
Saying
us,
an example.
Mahmood, tell us something about some of your experiences that are unforgettable in your case, where a lesser known language actually helped you out or something, or any experience that you would want to share with us. Hmm.
It didn't happen with the natives, but it happened in India. I
Okay.
said right, like before 14 years, I didn't know any language to speak.
Hmm.
Not only English. Yeah, my English was broken English too before 14 years.
Okay. Okay.
So at that time, I tried to learn at least like saying hello or how are you, or just say
Hmm.
thank you in
Yeah.
various languages.
Okay.
So I just like learned 50 plus languages just to say
Right.
hello or thank you, and
Yeah.
just learning these two words in 50 plus languages. Our Indian people are thinking I'm just like a god. Yeah, he knew so many languages, but the reality is I only learned two words, which is hello and
Yeah.
thank you, and they
Okay.
think I can speak 50 languages fluently.
Okay. No,
Funny
that's
thing happened.
interesting.
Yeah, and then funny thing happened, which is the viewers or the YouTube channels,
Yeah.
just to get the views, they made me that this boy is speaking 400 languages. In reality, I don't speak 40. I claim to speak 46, but just to get
46.
views for them, they made it as this boy speaks 400 languages.
Yeah, but you can read and write in 400 languages, right?
Ah, yes, exactly.
Okay, so
But
you
but
can
I won't
speak
understand the
fluently
meaning.
in 46.
Won't understand the
Okay.
meaning. That's why I
Okay, so
say
the
read.
script,
Let's
you
say,
can
for
read the
example,
script
to
and write.
understand for
Hmm.
you,
Hmm.
you're giving me a page of Hindi script, so I
Hmm.
can still read the Hindi script. I can read it
Hmm.
fluently, but still I won't
Yeah.
understand the meaning. But I can read it
Okay.
fluently. So that's what happens with 400 languages.
Okay, so you're familiar
And I
with the
can write
script,
it
but
also. So
okay.
if you give
So,
me the
but then,
paper, I can write it
yeah.
in the same script. How do you put the ma, like that? I can
Oh, so
write it
if
down.
I dictate it to you, you can write it down as well, but not understand the
Yeah,
meaning.
exactly. Correct. And I
But
can
don't you
type
think
also.
that's dangerous?
Quite dangerous.
Because being the notorious person that I am, I could ask you to write a lot of things without you
Okay.
getting to know the
Okay.
meaning.
Right. That is correct. But I'm a human too. I cannot learn all the 400 languages
Oh
meaning,
yeah,
right?
yeah. You as it is, you know so many languages. That's also not normal. I mean, it's a very
Yeah.
fascinating thing that you've already done.
Correct. Yeah.
At a young age, I would want to appreciate the age and the learning process. And I'm sure you will try to learn more languages. Do you plan to learn more languages?
No, definitely not.
No.
No, I'm going to stop with this one. Maybe I might change any languages. I will add it as an existing one, not as a new one or old one.
Oh, you'll brush them up further.
Yeah, exactly. For
Oh, that's
example,
that's also
I chose Latin as one of the language which I speak, but I'm
right.
going to change with maybe Bengali. Like that.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. So,
Yes.
is there any advice that you would want to give to the beginners who think they are not good at languages or they are trying to learn
Mm.
languages? How should they
Okay.
start or anything?
Okay. The first one is to our Indians, because see, like most of them are not fluent in English with speaking ability, but they can still read and write and perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So for them, they are doing a little mistake. So which they will do for other languages also. That's why they are not developing their speaking skills.
Right.
The main progress is they are using a lot of text. You see,
Yeah.
if you're learning a language, once you get
Hmm.
fluent in reading and writing, then if you want to speak that language, you should listen a lot. You should listen a lot,
Right.
and you have to speak from your mouth.
Hmm.
So, for example, let's say the people who can read English fluently and write
Yeah.
fluently, but can't speak fluently. So, those people have the knowledge in their brain. But to speak
Right.
a language, our mouth needs to help, right? Not the brain.
Right.
Brain is not going to
Right.
speak. It doesn't have a mouth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we need to train our mouth. We need to train our mouth. That's
Yeah.
when we can speak a language. We need to train
Oh,
our
that's
mouth.
interesting.
So
That's
we have to speak
interesting.
a lot. We have to speak a lot, and we have to train our ear also. That's when we can understand other natives.
Right.
Okay, so just by seeing the text, our brain
Hmm.
can understand. So that's the
Hmm.
same thing. If I message on WhatsApp or mail,
Yeah.
that person
Hmm.
can really reply with a better English, but not with
Hmm.
speaking ability. The problem is with text. They're always focusing on the text and always replying to the text. Everything is based on text. There is
Yeah.
nothing like a visual audio or visual
Hmm.
video.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's their mistake, and they have
Hmm.
to get this one. Need to be done.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for this advice for our audience.